Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Carole Ann Rice is a life coach and journalist who also runs networking meetings. She's got 5 top tips to share on how to choose the right network for you. Thank you very much for being my podcast guest today, Carole Ann.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
Now, you're a life, business and media coach, but what did you do before you became a coach?
Oh, as a journalist, I've been a journalist for 30 years. I've written for The Sun, The Mirror, Daily Express, all the women's magazines like Cosmo, Glamour, Grazia, various things. But 20 years ago, it's very hard being a freelance journalist. You have to sell lots of stories and you get a lot of rejections. It's a bit like going to auditions and you get a commission and it takes ages and you don't get paid very well. So I said, I hired a coach at the time and she said to me, maybe you should think about becoming a coach after a while of coaching with her. So I took a big risk and I made that leap and I've never looked back.
And so what kind of training did you have to go through to become a coach?
Well, I did a 2-year course 20 years ago with a company called Coach U. And at the time, it was the only one in the world because Thomas Leonard was the man who invented coaching, different to psychotherapy. He had come up with his own methodology. So it was very new, very American. But in those days, although there was an internet, there was no Skype or Zoom. So you had to do everything on the phone. And so I never met for 2 years any of my students or saw them or any of my fellow students or tutors, anyone. So I was just phoning America 5 times a week on a special dialing deal. And sometimes at 3 or 4 in the morning having to do the modules for 2 years. So it wasn't a great way to learn, which is one of the reasons why I started my own coaching academy a little while ago, because I thought there's got to be a better way. And I wanted to bring it to life. I want it to be a very experiential way of learning, not academic, not dissertations, not exams, and a really exciting way to teach people to be great coaches. So I came up with an academy with the help with someone else a little while ago.
Well, that's dedication, though, but doing it at 3 or 4 in the morning. You obviously really wanted to do it.
If you didn't do it, you didn't pass, you see. So it was like all the modules were on a carousel. So say coaching for confidence module came up, it would only come up at 5 a.m. our time. I had to do that, otherwise it was another month before that carousel came round again. So you had to phone at 5 a.m. the same time each week, the same day each week to do that module. So whether you liked it or not, you had to complete the whole curriculum.
Now, there's all sorts of coaching. What do you specialise in? What do you particularly like to coach people in?
Yeah, well, I am a life coach. I'm not a business coach or an executive coach. So the basis of all coaching is life coaching. But my 2 niches are confidence and clarity, because over the years of coaching scores and scores of people, the one thing that every human being wants is a bit more confidence to do something. To start a business, to write a book, to lose weight, to ask someone out, to say to somebody, I'm finished in this relationship, whatever it is. We all need a bit more courage. So, and then the other thing that I found people wanted was clarity. A lot of people said, I've hit a certain point in my life, I don't know what I want next. So I found that really confident people do know what they want next. It's like, I'll have that thing over there, I'm going to start this. Whereas underconfident people suffer with clarity because they need to trust themselves more. So I went into the 2 niches, confidence and clarity. And when you've got the confidence, the clarity makes itself known. And when we've got clarity, everything comes into sharp focus, because it's like, now I know what I want. Now I can work towards it. But when you don't know, it's just fog every day, more of the same fog, and it makes you feel down. And why can't I see what I want? And I just kind of feel like I'm going on the hamster wheel rather than living with an intentional purpose. So I think getting clarity is like a lovely breath of fresh air. Suddenly everything seems clear and you know what you're doing each day.
So who is it that you coach? Do you have a particular client base?
Because I've been doing it for so long, it sounds bad, I'm able to charge a bit more than someone who's just graduated, because I've got 20 years of experience behind me. So it tends to be company directors, CEOs, chief executive people. but also like artists, actors, writers, footballers, supermodels. I've had a supermodel that dated Leonardo, so wealthy, beautiful, still not happy. All sorts of people, but basically people who are ready to make a big change in their life and they can't do it on their own. And with coach support, the coach asks you unusual questions to help you move forward. And family and friends are great. They do give you support, but they don't spend time really getting into the nitty-gritty of what you really, really want and how you're going to get there. And that's what coaches do. So it's I would say, a vast variety of people. I've worked with students who've worked at the Apple store, saving up their Saturday money or their week's money to have coaching sessions, nurses, doctors, GPs. I've even worked with sex workers who want to get out of that profession. I've worked with, a scientist. So it's anyone who's basically saying, I've sort of hit a wall and I don't know how to move on. And a coach is there as a professional to help you find that direction again.
Mm. And do you just work one-to-one with people, or do you do group sessions for businesses, for example?
I have done group sessions for businesses, and I've worked at the London School of Economics and various other institutions like Play England, which is a charity. And that's great to go in and do presentations and get everyone talking. And I often do group coaching for myself. So I put out, I'm doing a group coaching session on confidence, say, and ask the general public if they'd like to come, and we might do it over 3 or 4 weeks. So it makes an affordable way of getting into coaching without having to spend a lot of money on the bigger programs.
Yeah. Now, I know that you're been a columnist for the Daily Express. How did
Yeah.
that come about?
Well, it's interesting because when I was a journalist years ago, my colleague said to me, "What do you want to get out of your journalism?" I said, "I'd really love to be a columnist in Fleet Street." Never got that through being a journalist ever. But as a coach, I knew of someone who worked on the Express, and I said, a lot of my clients get very down about the news headlines, and if you do listen to the news, it's like crisis, climate meltdown, war, energy crisis. It's always something miserable, and if you're not feeling great, watching the news really brings you down. So I said, there's no column out there that spreads the good news or helps people get happier. So I got the direct number of the editor of the Daily Express, and I took a risk, and I emailed him, and I said, "Look, sorry, one of your colleagues suggested I contact you. Sorry, I haven't. Please don't tell them off. But have you ever thought about a column that makes people happy rather than all the headlines?" And he said, "Go away, I'm having a bad day." In not too many, not exactly those words. And I said, "Well, maybe you should retrain and become a coach like me, then you never have another bad day again," which got him even more grumpy. And then I had a little bit of a dialogue with him on the email, and I said, "Look, just give me 1 or 2 of them to try." And I got a phone call about 2 days later. "What's this column you're doing on Monday's paper?" Out of the blue. I was given a very difficult brief. It had to include 4 stories in 850 words and include a celebrity. So when you're a journalist, the easiest thing in the world is to waffle on for 2,000 words. The hardest thing is to get 4 stories in 850 words plus a celeb, because they needed a photo to illustrate it, you see.
Right.
So what I thought was going to run for like a couple of weeks ran for 7 years.
Wow.
And I would say to your listeners, we're always worth taking a risk. The only thing that would be hurt is your pride. If they say no, have another go. Knock on the door. It's nothing. You don't have to even tell anyone you're doing it. Just knock on the door, and if they say no, try another door.
I was just thinking when you said you got this email address and you kind of dared to email the editor, and I thought, wow, that's brave. And I thought, but what's the worst that can happen?
Well, the worst that can happen, they don't answer at all, because then you think, have they got it, or should I keep going on and keep asking them? But when I was working with my coach years ago, I wanted to be a columnist about motherhood. It would be the sort of Bridget Jones of motherhood. This was about 20 years ago. And my coach said, "Phone Piers Morgan, who's on the Mirror, and suggest it to him." Well, this was before he was the big TV star he is now. And I was so scared. So don't email, phone him. And I got his number, and I phoned. My knees were actually knocking together, and I got his secretary, and she said, "Who is it?" And I said, "Tell him it's his new motherhood columnist." She said, "You what?" I was being very audacious, but then she said, listen here, my dear, you phoned on the worst day of the year. It's the World Cup. England are playing. There is no way he's going to come to the phone. Well, I didn't follow back. I didn't follow up. But my my coach, bless her, sent me a bunch of flowers just for doing it and being so brave. And now when I look back, I actually didn't really want that column, but I really did want my Happy Monday column in the Express.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful story.
Thankfully, the World Cup was on. And he didn't come to the phone.
So let's have a chat about networking now, which
Yeah.
is obviously what my podcast is about now. And
Yeah.
I know that you've run a network, so tell me about that.
Well, I just wanted to go back to my networking history, really, because when I
Sure.
first started as a coach, there weren't many ways of promoting yourself. There wasn't Facebook, Insta, all the rest of it. I don't even think LinkedIn was up then. So how do you promote yourself 20 years ago? And I got a phone call about a new networking event that was starting up in West London. And we went, and it was the first of the Athena network, which is a women's network. So it's one of the first ever members to join that. And they were very lovely women. And I really got so much support from them over the years that followed. I learned how to sell better, how to have a better website, get better, proper photos done using the other members of the group, plus incredible support from them. It was a lovely little tonic each month going. So after Athena, I started to do a business breakfast with another coach called Susan Tomlinson, and this was in the St. Stephen's Club in St. James's, and it was kind of an exclusive gentleman's club, but they let us in and had a business breakfast and a speaker, and that we made a lot of great contacts there. And then I started an evening network group with a lady called Karen Campbell, and we did an evening network called Spark, and that was in central London, and we wanted drinks and canapes, a guest speaker or two guest speakers to talk about how they built their business and basically have a nice time over a glass of wine. And for 9 years, I was the fabulous networking group leader for Ealing. So I ran a lovely group there for 9 years, once a month, the Doubletree Hilton in Ealing Common, and met so many fabulous friends there. And now I joined Sister Snog and Love Business. Because I'm a networking addict, because of all of the things, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, Twitter, that have built my business, it's in-person networking. Of all the things, giving me clients, credibility, confidence, honing my business skills, and the fabulous support that you get. So I'm always looking for new networking opportunities. I think it's a fabulous way of doing business and meeting like-minded people.
And how did you find things during the pandemic when, of course, we couldn't meet in person?
Yeah, well, there was a couple of networking things online that I was still presenting the fabulous networking in Ealing online. And I started a club called the Confidence and Clarity Club, the CC Club, which had about 15 to 20 members. And that really helped people over that year when we were in lockdown, because it was a weekly catch up with everyone. And there was sometimes laughter, sometimes tears. But I always did a little presentation about keeping positive and keep going. And a lot of people said they made some great connections through that. So the pandemic, I think we were very lucky. If you were into networking, business could still go on, and you could still connect and feel less isolated, and that business was ticking over by talking to other people and hearing how they were coping and how they were pivoting their businesses and doing different things. It was quite extraordinary what people were coming up with. Even someone doing a facial online. My beauty lady, who I met networking, she was saying, "This is how you do your home facial." It was like, do it on Zoom, do it showing how to massage your face. And although she wasn't making money out of it, she was keeping her customers interested and engaged with her.
Yeah, I have to say, I went to one of those in lockdown as well.
Yeah,
It
they're
actually
very
worked quite
fun.
well. And the person who was running it actually sent little samples out to everybody in advance, so we all had the
Very
same,
good.
the moisturizer or whatever, and we
Yeah,
all put it on at the same time. And it was quite fun.
yeah. I also did a Valentine's Day flower arranging evening with a friend who's Louise, who's got a florist shop. She sent everyone the kit, a bag full of roses and chicken wire in a little pot, and we all made some Valentine's flowers on Zoom for Valentine's Day, which is rather nice too.
Yeah, I think people were really quite inventive and creative
Yeah,
during that
yeah.
period.
Absolutely.
Now, when we had a pre-conversation bit before the recording, you told me that you're very intolerant these days of badly run networking
Oh,
meetings. So
oh,
tell me what constitutes a badly run networking meeting?
oh, I'm a bit of an intolerant person anyway, I suppose, because I like things to be done really well, and I try to do things well. And so I go along, and it's people not introducing you to others, so you're left on your own in a corner. Now, one of the rules I had when I was a host is I used to say to everyone, we've got some visitors here, don't let them stand on their own. Please go, or I would go up to them if I was a guest rather than a member. Hi, are you new here? Have you? And I have had so much feedback from people in afterwards saying, "Thank you so much for coming over to me. I joined because you showed me friendship and kindness." Everyone should do that at a networking event. Don't go into your silos and just speak to your mates. Talk to the people who look a bit lost and who've never done this sort of thing before. The other one is letting things run over. Um, I'm a stickler. If it says finish at 3, you finish at 3. You don't let it trickle over to 3:30. We're all busy. Some people have to pick up children, have to get buses. Someone let something run over so much that half the room missed all their trains and ended up, because they all come down from the north to London, and got home at 9 o'clock at night because
Oh, no.
the event ran over. The other one is letting someone dominate.
Mm.
You're given your 1 minute or 2 minutes to do your talk. Everyone sticks with it, but someone doesn't, and they go on. The group leader should say, that is your 2 minutes. I'm a stickler for it. If there's a minute, that's your minute.
Yeah.
I can let you finish what the final thing, but you don't get an extra minute.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. And when there's lunch coming, not having it delivered in time, so someone's about to speak and all the dinner plates are put down in front of you. And I just think it needs to be really sharp. And like all things, it looks effortless, but underneath it all, you have to be in control and make sure that everyone gets the fair share, no one's dominating, and that you leave on time.
Yeah, absolutely. And what tips would you have for people who are perhaps attending a networking meeting for the first time?
Got 5 tips for you, Liz.
Marvelous.
The tip number 1 is set your intention. What do you want from networking? So there's no point just saying, I think I should do networking. What do you want from it? So it might be actually what I call entrepreneurial isolation, EI, not AI, EI. You're in your box room or your private office or in your work hub. It can get lonely.
Mm.
So is it simply that you would like to meet new people? There's nothing wrong with that. There's no agenda. You don't want to sell. You don't want to buy. You just want to meet new like-minded people. That's fine. But set your intention. Do I want to build my business, get support, sell a bit, let people know about me, gain my visibility? What is it that you want? So know that before you go.
Mm.
So the step 2 is location. There's no point joining a networking group if it's miles from you and it's really hard to get to, because it's hard to be motivated some days anyway. But if it's a long way, a train and a bus and another train, you're not going to go. So make sure it's easy to get to and convenient for you, and the time is convenient. I don't want to do a 6 o'clock in the morning breakfast club. I couldn't possibly. I also don't really like that many evening events, because I think, what do? You're stuck in this room, it's late. How am I going to get home? So something about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, a lunchtime event is good for me. But for other people, is it convenient? Is the time right? So that was it, location and time. So that's step 3. Point 3 is the time. Is it the right time for you? And 4, check out the venue as you go in. Do you want to come there every month? I went to one and it was an old pub and it was open at 10. It smelled of old beer. Well, that's fair enough. But the toilet was falling off the wall. I had a nice business outfit on and I thought, I know it sounds really kind of pompous, but this doesn't represent the brand of who I am.
Mm.
I feel shabby coming in here.
Mm.
I felt like I'd overdressed just to go to 10 o'clock business meeting. All the events I've run, the venues have to be beautiful, and women like a nice loo, and they don't want a long walk from the station when you've got your briefcase or a bag or a rucksack. So near a station, nice venue. You might want to stay for a drink or a coffee afterwards. Hotels are great. A lovely cafe or restaurant that's got a quiet day. So I always think the venue sells it too,
Mm.
because it's like becomes an event. I like
Yeah.
going there. It's a nice event. And finally, it's the people who run it and the people you meet. If you go in and you feel isolated and no one's bothered to connect you, remember that. Do you like the group leader? Are they loud? It's okay to be loud. Are you a person who likes loud people? Are they quiet and inclusive? That might be your thing. They're a bit more, everybody come in and let's all decide, are these the sort of people I want to hang out with every week? But don't make too many snap decisions, because sometimes the quietest people sitting around the table are the most interesting, and the loudest people can also be incredibly helpful. So just kind of pick up the vibe. Do I like it? Did I like the venue? Is the time right for me? Is the location easy to get to? Overall, from the first event, what are my impressions out of 10? And if you like it, if it's over 10, over 5, 6, 7, then think about going again.
Mm. And I think sometimes you need to try several meetings to find one that suits you, don't you?
You do. And also, my sign in my office is not just another coach. And I don't mind being in a room full of other coaches, but it might be nice to meet a web designer, a photographer, a makeup artist, someone who does something incredibly different, like I LinkedIn posts just for you, Instagram. You just don't want the same of everyone being in there.
Mm.
Although coaches do work really well together, we can do workshops together and that kind of thing. But make sure it's a good mix of people. And don't rule out someone, because you might think, I don't really have anything in common with the wedding cake maker. The wedding cake maker knows a lot of people,
Mm.
and they might actually want a coach, or they might want a florist or a photographer, or all sorts of other leads on. I also think, be creative when you're networking. Think, who might they know. So I've got a lot of work from a landscape gardener. Why? Because
Mhm.
she works at home doing beautiful landscapes, but the lady of the house or the man of the house who's around all day gets chatting to her. They're a bit lonely.
Mm.
And she says, oh, you need my friend Carole Ann. She's a life coach. Here's her card. Because she said, I ended up being like a coach to them, doing the gardening. And she went, why don't you get a job? Why don't you write? Oh, you need to speak to Carole Ann. She'll help you out. So she took my leaflets and cards in her work bag with her. And I got business from a landscape gardener. So be creative about who you're connecting with,
Yeah, I think you just never know, do you? You don't know who you're going to meet at a meeting, and you don't know who it is that they know.
Exactly, and how you might do something together. I mean, I had an event once. It was one of the most popular events, and 40 people came, and a lady left, and she said, "I didn't get anything out of that meeting." And I said, "But there was 40 people in the room. Maybe when you stood up to speak, you should have been more specific about what you wanted."
Mm.
And that's the other thing. When you do your 1 minute, don't be afraid to say, "Please sign up to my newsletter," or "All I want is people to give me feedback on my new website." It doesn't have to be that you're selling your
Mm.
services time. Just say, I would like people to have a one-to-one with me, a coffee, which is also a great way of consolidating a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the magic's in the follow-ups, isn't it?
It is, and being bothered to do the one-to-ones. I know we all go back to our offices or wherever we work and head down again, but be bothered to go and meet people and have that one. You'll be surprised what you learn.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think is the future of networking now? I mean, we've had the lockdowns where we couldn't meet. We're now back to where some things are still online, some things are now back in person. How do you see the networking world developing from here?
I think there's a more of a well, I would say this because I'm a coach, but more of a personal development side of it too. I think when I was running an event last week, and I just said the newspaper headlines are scary, the news is scary. We're only going to talk about positive things today. What hands up? What's the good news for your business in the new year? No one put their hand up. So, but anything you want in the world for your business. And I thought this is a good way of them setting their intentions. And then it was
Mm.
like, I'm going to open up 10 more branches of the thing I do. Wow, that's amazing. How are you going to do that? Someone else said, I just want to get my newsletter up to 5,000. Okay, can we all help you today? So I think sometimes making it more, let's set intentions, let's be accountable, let's set tasks, let's set challenges. That kind of thing, where you also feel that you're stretching yourself a little bit rather than just sitting there and here's my business card, and something like that, or even themed events,
Mm.
bringing people in. We'll have a hot seat. Let's talk to you about your business. Let's brainstorm a bit like a mastermind group sort of thing.
Yeah. I think the accountability piece is really important.
Yeah.
And, if you're going to a networking group regularly, that's a great way to spur you on to, okay, well, I've got to tell them what I've done this week. I need to do something.
Well, it does work. If you know you're going to Weight Watchers weigh-in, you don't eat a lot that week. You think, "Oh, well, I've got to get on the scales." And it's the same with coaching. If I set homework for my clients, when I speak to Carole Ann, I better have done it. And equally, when you've got an accountability buddy, how are you getting on? Did you write that thing? Did you do that? Did you make that phone call? Did you phone Piers Morgan? Yes, I did. Okay, well, people knowing that you've got a little guardian angel on your side, a business angel, does push you forward. And it's kind of fun as well.
Yeah, definitely. So just finally then, Carole Ann, if people want to know more about you and your coaching business or anything else we've spoken about, what's the best place for them to find you?
Well, just Google me, Carole Ann Rice, and my company is called The Real Coaching Company. I also am running a business network called Zoco in Chiswick, ZOCO, and I do the in-person Chiswick meetings. And this was started by a chap called Nick Blanchard, who got the idea in lockdown, because Zoco means Zoom and coffee, which he did in lockdown.
Mhm.
And he's got quite a lot of branches growing all over the west and southeast London and southwest London. So come along to my Chiswick meeting. I'll just Google me, Carole Ann Rice. I've got some lovely newsletters where I share humorous tips on personal development.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for being my guest, and particular big thanks for your 5 top tips. Those are going to be really, really useful to people.
Thanks for the opportunity, Liz. It's been really fun.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.